So we're talking about Kenny Goldsmith's soliloquy. It's this big book. But before we get into what the project is, Max, do you have access to a poem, earlier poems from this course? See if you can read a line from Robert Frost, maybe the first couple.
Sure. Mending wall. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen groundswell under it.
Do it again. The first two lines, not the title.
Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen groundswell under it.
Give the text to Molly. Molly, would you read the first two lines?
Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen groundswell under it.
Fantastic, thank you. Why was that so easy to read?
It's metrical.
It's metrical, yeah.
It's definitely metrical. I'm not sure why it's so easy to read other than that it's metrical, but I also think that it's easy to read because we know how to read lines like that. We've been socialized. You've all been, I was about to say educated, maybe overeducated is the word, you just know how to read this stuff. So let's turn to page 17 in Act 1. Why is it called Act 1?
Because it's day one.
Day 1 of how many days, Allie?
7.
7 days. Is it really 7? Are there 7 acts?
That should be okay. Like 7.
7 acts.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, 7 acts. So what did he do for a week, Allie?
He mic'd himself and just recorded himself. He transcribed everything that he said.
Well, that's not the first thing he did. The first thing is he recorded everything that he said for a week. I mean, you could probably hear in the original recordings, if they exist, I think they probably do, what other people said sometimes. But he recorded, his purpose was to record himself. He's sort of set up like I am, although I think the mic was hidden. I know the mic was hidden, and so was the tiny recorder. And he didn't tell people he was doing it. Right? He did tell his wife, Cheryl Donegan, who, if you read the whole book, at the end of Act 2, she gets kind of mad at him because he wants to have sex at night, and she knows the mic is on, and she knows he's doing this for his art. It's a little like Williams and Flossie in a way. You know, come on, let's have sex. It'd be great on the tape. You know, and she says, "I'm not. You have to turn that off." I mean, this is my way of getting you to read the whole book. But we're here to discuss, and our course is arranged around Act 1. Okay, so page 17 of Act 1 of the first day. There's a passage which is in some ways typical and in some ways kind of extreme. So I'm going to ask a few of you to read the passage, part of it, all of it, whatever, and just see if we can compare how it sounds to the way Max and Molly read the Frost. So Emily, do a little bit of this reading, perform it for us.
Page 17?
Mm-hmm. Starting with, I thought that was a good deal.
I thought that was a good deal, I mean, the other thing is, I'm working now, I've got this pretty interesting internet business going. I don't mind doing that,
Okay, thank you. Amaris, can you read some of it, any of it? You can continue,
Sure.
maybe?
I don't mind doing that, I actually really like it, It's really, I don't mind working because it's interesting. As an artist, artists really need time in their studios to stand and paint and sketch, and I used to need all the time.
Thank you. Dave, continue.
I used to need all the time in the world to fill those letters in, but I can't write 10 hours a day the way I used to fill in letters. So I've got all this time in my hands, so I got so I started working and this, nice internet thing going. You want to go? You got time? You want to run over? Yeah, I'll show you. But, oh, yeah. Oh, you've got to come over. Oh, okay, yeah.
Allie, would you read the last couple of lines again? Maybe from You Want to Go?
You want to go, you got time, you want to run over? Yeah. Yeah, I'll show you. But, oh, yeah. Oh, you've got to come over. Oh, okay, yeah.
So, Anna, you've never spoken like this, right?
Probably.
Probably. Molly?
I hope not quite like the...
Yes?
Yeah.
Max? Even Max?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, somebody say, I mean, obviously I've set us up for a conversation about what's natural language and what's intent, what should be written. But, so Amaris, what's the difference between Max's facility with reading Frost and our relative, I don't know if the word is infacility. Emily, infacility?
Maybe. I like it.
Our inability to read this language smoothly, and how do we explain that?
I think we usually make a distinction between written language and then speech, and we think perhaps that we're as articulate out loud as we are when we have the time to write down a Frost poem, which strips away all the hesitations, the uhs and ums and buts that we see in Kenny's work, and just restores it to this pure, syntactically dense sentence. And here we have all the stutterings and stammerings right in front of us, and that's natural, but a bit of a surprise, I think.
Somebody want to talk about transcription with respect to this? Allie? He transcribed it. He transcribed it as exactly as he could. Why?
Because he wanted to get every utterance, regardless of whether it was a word or at all coherent. And I just remember thinking as I was reading this, that must have taken forever.
It was a really, really difficult process. Not the same virtuosity and difficulty that Christian Buck encountered when he did his super-duper lipogram. That's a different kind of thing we'll talk about. And not the same virtuosity that's involved in Caroline Bergvall's gathering, a research-based gathering of 70 or 80 translations of the first line of Dante's Inferno. Rigorous, too. And not the same rigor that's involved in the Cagean and McClovian work that was done by them and their followers, that's being done by their followers. A different kind of rigor. It's kind of non-rigorous rigor. In a way, Kenny Goldsmith sits at home and in a project like this transcribes from tape, trying to be as uncreative as possible. You want to say something about uncreativity?
Well, I mean, the whole kind of pretense of the project is to be, is while he's in the action of it, that's not supposed to be art, that's supposed to be life.
Well, it is life, with the exception that...
Yeah, with the exception that if you know, with the exception that there's the self-consciousness of being
Recording.
mic'd. Yeah.
Yeah. That's his project.
Yeah.
All right. How would you describe it again? You're doing such a great job with this. It's life. This is the way we speak, especially when we're not being literary.
So, that's just... It's hard because there could be the option of it being uncreative and then non-creative. And I'm more inclined to say that it's non-creative, actually, because I don't think anyone lives necessarily uncreatively.
Non-creative. How about originality? This is unoriginal.
Yeah, because, everyone, especially he talks about the importance of gossip. During so many of his conversations, that's a large part of the content, and that's really always pretty unoriginal.
Let's go to the epigraph
stuff.
for a second. Thank you, Allie. Let's go to the epigraph in the whole book. I don't think you have it in your packet, but I'll read it to you. Postscript. If every word spoken in New York City daily were somehow to materialize as a snowflake, each day there would be a blizzard. What does that mean? What's the point of that? Anna?
I think the point of that is that we are surrounded by so much language all the time, and that words are everywhere, whether you're trying not to listen or not. You're reading stuff as you're walking down the street, from billboards to like taxi cabs to just like hearing conversations around you. Even if you're not contributing to that,
Right.
You're surrounded by it no matter what.
And is there value placed on that stuff, that crap, that that snowstorm of language around us?
I mean, if it's just a few snowflakes falling, you may notice them. But if it's a blizzard, you're not going to notice
I
any
love the
individual.
snowflakes thing, because what is the cliche about snowflakes?
That they're all unique.
Each one is unique. I think Goldsmith is saying that, yeah, I guess in the individual they're unique, but taken as a totality, there's nothing at all unique about any of this. So we have so much language around us, Goldsmith says, why invent any? Why create? It's already there. Why don't we just listen? Again, shift our attention. Sounds like Walt might be coming back. What's this remind you of?
Kind of the catalog, Blab of the Pave.
Blab of the Pave. This is really listening. This isn't even filtered through Whitman's visionary romanticism or whatever it is he has.
And almost I contain multitudes at the same time.
But it's not I contain multitudes, it's multitudes.
Right.
I mean,
But-
the I
but
can't
you-
be completely vacated, as you pointed out. It's impossible. This is Goldsmith's project. So here we go. Here's a definition beginning to form of conceptualism. The I works at the level of the conceptual. The I in McClough works at the level of the decision to use this source text or that computer program. After that, it becomes a vacating of the I, a vacating of subjectivity. So let's look. So that's what's conceptual. The work gets done by the artist at the level of the concept, and then when it gets worked out, it's just transcribing. It's really non-interventionist transcribing as much as possible. Of course, that's theoretically impossible because even in the passage I read you want to go, you got time, you want to run over. That could be three sentences with question marks after it. There could be commas there. Yeah. Those are individual sentences. I'll show you. But. Oh, yeah, period. Oh, no comma. You've got to come over. Oh, okay. That's one sentence. Oh, okay. And yeah is its own sentence. So decisions are being made constantly at the point of transcription. Let's look at page 15. Also in Act 1. Here's a new project I'm working on. Okay, I'm taking a leap of language. I'm recording everything I'm saying for an entire week. I mean, no, I'm sorry, I can't read this well. I'm always talking about the volume of language that's around. I mean, what would your language look like if you collected every piece of shit word that you said for an entire week? Yeah, and what would it look like? And what form would it say? You just printed it out and put it in a big stack, and it's a visual representation of all the crap that you speak all week. It's a visual representation of language. It may not be exciting, but it's a great concept. It could, in other words, that could be, I could take the language that I record myself speaking all week, etc. So he's doing what Christian Buck does in Eunoia. He makes sure that he inserts some reference to the project itself in the project. So he's doing that kind of vamping. He's kind of talking to someone knowing that at the beginning of this book it will get transcribed. But there's the word concept. Does anybody want to say what concept means in that particular context? Dave, what does concept mean there?
It's an idea, just an idea, an approach. When you talked earlier about something like a concept that can be replicated, taking the subjectivity out of it, it made me think of Andy Warhol, who had just the process of how to recreate those silkscreen images.
And then they just keep going.
Yeah, and he let other people
It's kind of a factory,
Yeah.
is the word he used. So you said idea. I think we need to be a little more specific. Because I have a lot of ideas, but they're not like this. Idea? No. Concept. Let's keep going. A great concept. This is conceptual writing, conceptual poetry. We've encountered the word concept. Let's see if we can get it right in this context. Molly, what does concept mean here?
I mean, I think of it as a plan, I guess, or a blueprint.
Blueprint, right? Something you can enact. And if you do enact, great. And if you don't enact it, that's okay too. That's what the Fluxus artists were partly all about. Right? Yoko Ono and her colleagues and Dick Higgins and those people, they wrote instructions, and sometimes the instruction just stands there as the conceptual art, whether it gets done or not. Okay, let's keep going a little bit more on this concept of concept. Maurice, what's a concept in this context?
I think it introduces the concept to the viewer of a new way of viewing and encountering the world. So the artist is less the artist than the vehicle of conveying that concept. So in doing it itself, I don't think it's less in the details of the work and rather in the greater picture of what the spectator can then bring into his own life.
Okay, let's look at page 48 for another example. So I'm looking at a passage that starts, so tell me about your John Simon project. There's another word for concept, right? And it goes down to a reference to his wife Cheryl. Does anybody want to read this? Who's a dog owner? Molly, would you read this with the love of a dog owner, please?
Sure. Starting with, so tell me.
Yeah, please.
So tell me about your John Simon project. Oh, you want to put on this cream? All right, I do. Grazie. So, not happening. Can you get that? I had lunch at, Hey, what did you bite for? Oh, God. Hey, oh, look at the tip of his tail. He loves bats. Hey, come here. Hey, come here, sweetie. Hey, come. Hey, come. Oh, look, he's smelling bets. Who is it? Do we know her? Look at him drink. Hey, bad boy. Who's a bad boy? Oh, yes. He's completely after Babette. Hey, look what I've got for you. Hey, sit. Sit down. Good boy. He's so cute. Loves Betsy girl. Have you killed a cat? Down, down, down. Oh, I know that's what you do. You're good. Down. Hey, down, down, down. Does he roll over? Is that as far as he goes? Bets will roll over on her side. Yeah, definitely. In order? Everything fine? Everything's fine now? Looks good? Look, I didn't realize you had done a show with Curtis Cuffey. We love him. And I always said to Cheryl,
Molly, what's happening there? You've been through this.
another dog has come up to their dog, probably off leash, and is sniffing her and kind of getting excited.
They're outside.
Yeah.
Does the address get shifted?
Well, yeah, he's addressing the dog.
He doesn't indicate that in the transcript. This is not a transcript that turns into a screenplay, although I would love to make a movie of this. No, I wouldn't. He's shifting address from whom to whom?
From whoever did the John Simon project.
Right, somebody he's talking to. He's doing art talk. He does a lot of art talk.
Yeah.
Very pretentious,
Name dropping.
gossipy, consciously gossipy art talk. He's very much at the high level and also the low level of networking and connecting, doing the social New York scene. This is why he talks about New York and the snowflakes. This isn't the world, and this is New York art talk, and that's what he and Cheryl do. They're both artists. He's a conceptual artist, she's a video artist, and that's what they live and breathe. But they also have a dog. And so how does our attention shift in reality? Reality.
Because it goes to the dog, because you have to manage the situation.
And does it change in tone?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about that tone. You talk to your dog?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there's, and of course, there's all kinds of, stuff going on in this conversation.
It's almost like when we were talking about with the Bernadette Mayer experiments, taking a piece of your own writing and then putting the seed catalog in it. You have that kind of very drastic shift in, but
and
even more
Mayer's
seamless
trying to
than
get
that.
us to shift attention, and what Kenny would say to Mayer is, Bernadette, that's a great idea, but you know what? All I have to do is go walk my dog, and that's going to happen.
Doesn't happen. Yeah.
Okay, so we won't look closely at it, but as a way of sort of enticing people to reread this thing, what happens? What's the narrative of Act One? What happens? What's the highlight of his day?
Lunch with Marjorie.
Lunch with Marjorie Perloff, the great critic who's been mentioned in this course a number of times, who's really kind of the godmother of of avant-garde experimental poetics in the United States and elsewhere. And he gets to have, this marks the time when the relationship between this artist, who's up and coming in the new conceptualism, gets to meet Marjorie Perloff where?
At the MoMA.
Yes, at the Museum of Modern Art. And then, so he dishes with her, he gossips with her, then he leaves her and he spends pretty much the rest of Act One talking about her and saying things like, what?
That she just loves to dish.
She loves
to
to
something,
dish.
yeah.
She's a trip.
She's a trip. She is
Her
a trip, I can
politics are
tell you.
rough.
Yes, and that
Talks a lot. She gossips a
he
lot.
played her. He played her, he says, overtly. And then he puts this out, and Marjorie and everybody else reads this book. And this index was sent around by Granary Press, which is a pre-index of soliloquy, so that we could all see if our names were in the index and when we were mentioned. All right, let's conclude by looking at, just briefly talking about other projects that Kenneth Goldsmith is doing that are conceptualist projects. This is a relatively early one. Anybody want to mention a favorite?
Traffic is pretty cool.
Traffic is transcriptions of
the like traffic reports in New York for a
I
day.
think it's WINS, WINS radio on the 20s or on the 10s.
10 WINS.
So it's a transcription of traffic, and there's nothing duller. And do you know that Kenneth Goldsmith performed from traffic at the White House, in the capital of the United States of America, invited as a poet to the Obama White House by Michelle Obama. He read Traffic. What did he start with? Anybody know? He did a little anthology of of writing that takes us to conceptualism, and he started with Walt Whitman. He started with Whitman, and he gets to Traffic. Okay, quickly, any other projects worth mentioning? We talked about Fidget earlier in this term. Fidget is an attempt to describe every movement of his body for, 12 hours on Bloomsday one year. And finally, there's Day. And day is this. This is day. Day is a transcription exactly of one day's New York Times. One day, more than 1,000 pages of tiny type. One day. One day. And the effect of this is, you've got to be kidding. When I say I read the newspaper today, I certainly didn't read 1,000 pages. What did I read? I skimmed. This is a perfect transcription. Goldsmith was a BFA in sculpture at RISD, this Rhode Island School of Design, and this is his ultimate sculpture here. It's like a doorstop. That's Day, and that's Kenneth Goldsmith.